everyone, and welcome to Talk of the Town. My name is Karen Bukes, and I am the host for this evening. And this is a live broadcast. Tonight we're going live, and we will next week also. It's our Christmas show. But tonight I'd like to start with saying hello to our wonderful underwriters. Of course, there's David and Kevin Gallerani at Cape Auto and Cape Service Auto Body. Right here in Plymouth, wonderful service, great folks that work there. I recommend them highly. And then we have One Stop Painting, Jeff Cohen. He does everything, wallpapering, painting, your decks, your gutters. Trusted fellow. He does all hours and never failed us yet. And Wrestling Brewster, PC Solutions. You could call Wrestling. Not sure if Wrestling's doing his shows, but he does come on for the Three Amigos. But he'll come to your home, fix your computers, all your electronics, and it's wonderful. And who else do we have? I think that, my buddy, Quintal's Farmers Market. Dickie Quintal, former selectman, has a farmers market every Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 5, and it's indoors, rain or shine, fabulous fruits and vegetables, all fresh and at great, great prices. We go there often, cannot believe the amount of fresh goods he has, and baked goods also, and tortellini. Go there, it's at 1 Scobie Circle, right there by Walmart, further up in the industrial park, and you won't go wrong. But tonight I've looked forward to this show because a good friend is on, someone I admire, we admire very much. A good friend, and his roots go deep here in Plymouth, and he's here. We have photos and great stories about Plymouth, the way it was and the way it is. And please welcome our dear, dear friend, David Malaguti.
Thank you, Karen. For those of you who don't know me, Dave Malaguti, former selectman, 22 years on the board, born in Plymouth in 1948, never moved out. My grandfather immigrated here in the late 1890s, or I should say the early 1890s. My dad was born in 1898, so the roots go back quite a ways. Very interested in my town, love my town, and
that's a fact.
And this past winter I wrote a little story, and the impetus, Karen, was my historical construction equipment club that I belong to, and the sole function of that club is to promote the antique equipment that built so many of our roads and skyscrapers and things. These were manual machines, no power assist, sometimes no cabs, and if there were cabs, there were no heaters or air conditioners, there were no lasers, everything was just brute strength. So that's my appreciation for the old equipment. And my club members have been bugging me a long time to release some of my pictures, and I have a whole bunch of them. And then I thought, you know what, I'll do a little family story at the same time. That's in honor of my dad, because my dad was born in 1898, I was born in 1948. So there's a 50-year difference.
And he was 50 years old.
50 years when I was born.
When you were born.
Yep. And that's a generation chasm.
Wow.
So we argued quite a bit when I was growing up. And it took me till probably my very late teens to realize what a great man he was. And I did this little story in tribute to him.
And I read it. You came to the kitchen, my kitchen, and we sat down, and I was really taken with this tribute to your family that you so lovingly put together. And we had a lot of laughs and a lot of history here, and we put a lot of photos into the scanner, and you'll be able to see them But one thing was very clear, that you love Plymouth. You love, of course, your family. Your roots go deep. And we miss you.
Well, I'm still around. It's just
I
sort
know
of a
you're
low
still
profile.
low profile, but you still have your equipment and you still do certain things.
A little bit. I'm trying to phase out. I'm 69 years old. Frankly, I'm tired.
Yeah.
You know,
You're not that tired. You know, maybe working every day.
Yeah.
You know, like that.
So I've been trying to phase that end of it out, but I still do a few things, and I love my work. I love my town. It's a great town to live in, really.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, if Kenny's ready, I'd like Kenny. Let's start with the front cover. David put this together, and we'll go into the book. And you have other memorabilia here. Okay, this is live TV, but I was really, and this is your family flag.
That's the Italian flag.
That's
Yes, it is.
the Italian flag. And you had this great photo done, blown up, that
Yep.
we're going to show.
Yep.
If he can, okay, we're going to banter here, David, while he gets ready.
Well, I started the book. I called it It All Started in the Old Country because actually that's where it did start. In that my grandfather was born in 1859, but he was the second son, and in old Italy, the family possessions were passed on to the first son, and of course that wasn't him. Now my great-grandparents had a farm, and there's the book, It All Started in the Old Country.
Okay.
My great-grandparents had a farm. I don't think it was a huge farm, but it was a farm so that they were reasonably well off. I don't think they were wealthy, but neither
What part
were
of
they.
Italy?
Renazzo in Bologna.
Oh, boy. Oh,
Yep.
you were
Northern
Italy.
Italy. Yep. And my mother's people, too.
S-
So,
Okay,
my-
can we see the picture of his family, Kenny? So while
my
he
grandfather had convinced his parents to avoid working in the fields. He convinced his parents that he wanted to be a priest. There we have the
talks,
Malaguti
just
family.
to avoid
Yeah.
working in the field.
Right, and I think he wanted to be a priest about as much as I want to be an astronaut, but it got him out of the fields and it got him secondary education. He is in the middle left. That's Giuseppe Malaguti.
Okay.
To his far right is my grandmother, Elizabeth Malaguti. And then in the upper right-hand corner is my dad. That's Fred, my dad.
Your
Yeah. In the middle is my Aunt Nora.
yeah.
On the far left is my Uncle Ralph with the glasses.
Okay.
And now if you drop down, the bottom on the left is my Uncle Everett. The little girl in the middle is the youngest of the family. That's my Aunt Margaret. And the lower right is my Aunt Mary, and she is the mother of the Balboni family here in Plymouth.
yes.
So the Balboni brothers that owned Camelot Park, that's their mother.
Their mother.
Yeah, and the people that run it now are actually her grandchildren.
And that background is the original.
That's the family homestead, which is still up on Liberty Street.
Okay. And they all lived there, right? All
God, yeah.
around in the areas.
Yep.
And Stevie, could you come out and take care of the camera?
All set?
Oh, it's all set? Okay.
Okay.
Show where the.
If you look now, this is Standish Ave.
Okay.
And when you go up Standish Ave, here is the ball field on Liberty Street.
Okay.
So if you get to the ball field, just about the time when you're on home plate, everything from there all the way up here, around the homestead, all the way up here and across the highway. This is Route 3.
Okay.
Okay, across the highway, then back across here. This is the outside of the gravel pit. This is Oak Ridge. This is coming back down. This is all, again, Malaguti property, all the way down here back to the ball field. This is my brick house on the corner.
Yes.
of Westerly Route and Liberty Street. And this gravel pit is now the condos. All of this is the condos. Now, this picture is significant, which we'll get to, for two reasons. Number one, my grandfather owned all the way across the highway. And when Route 3 came in, they took 10 or 15 acres as a right-of-way to put Route 3, compensated my uncles and my father $10,000 or $12,000. But that left this piece of land landlocked. And the Industrial Corporation, back in the mid to late 60s when the cottage company closed, bought all of this land over here, and it freed up the piece of land that was landlocked. This is the road that Dr. Truex and the exercise places here. You think I can think of it?
Alden?
Athletic Club. All right. So now if you come down, this is Collins Ave.
Yeah.
And this, I believe, is the marijuana facility. So we are sitting right now, right about here.
Right about there.
Yep, on the land that was my grandfather's.
Oh.
Also, as we get further into the book, I mentioned the arches of the 1859 Hammett Billings canopy.
Yeah.
Malaguti brothers dug them out of the harbor, and there was one right there in the picture that you can see with a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. We'll get to that afterwards. But the whole street was inhabited by Malagutis or relatives or something like that.
Yeah,
You know?
Stevie dubbed it Malagutiville.
Malagutiville.
It should have been named that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But they came with nothing.
Oh, God, yeah.
And they made a living, a good living for all the family.
Well, the interesting thing there is, because my grandfather had some secondary education, when he came to Plymouth, he shortly thereafter got a steam engineer's license, and he was the night boiler man at the cottage company.
Ah.
And I asked Bill Rudolph if it was possible for him to verify that, because he's the historian down at the cottage. But there was a period of time that the records got burnt, so he couldn't verify that. But I know it to be a fact because everybody told me that, the stories that I've heard. And he would work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you could never shut the boilers down. So he earned enough money and saved enough money to buy what I think is probably somewhere around 70 acres.
Wow.
And as I tell in the book, when they built mill number 3, that was the first mill that they built with concrete. And my grandfather was astute enough to realize that concrete was the way to go. So shortly thereafter, they built a barn, and they imported railroad cars full of bagged cement, and he would sell bagged cement.
Well, you know, they were smart. They came over and they made a great living here, and you've carried it on. I mean, it's wonderful. They buy equipment.
Yep.
And I think you even have an invoice that shows.
Well, I have an invoice that shows in 1928, 16 bags of cement at 85 cents a bag, $13.60 from J. Malaguti and Sons.
Yeah.
And then from there, they started to buy equipment.
They started to buy equipment, and let's see those photos, Kenny.
We want to go with the ship.
Oh, yes, let's go back to the ship. I'm sorry, that's correct.
The
That's
ship.
correct, yep.
Okay, what is he doing?
Okay, when it comes up on the screen, that is the Kaiser Wilhelm. It left Italy in 1898, and my grandmother and grandfather on the Fecci side, Amilcare Fecci and his wife Clementina, came over on that ship. They came into Ellis Island, and I think the next picture that Kenny has is the passenger manifest.
Oh, wow.
And that passenger manifest is highlighted. There's two things in yellow that are highlighted. One of them is my grandfather, and below him is his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And then I think you have two pictures in there, Ken. That is my grandmother as a teenager.
Oh.
I don't know when the picture was taken. I mean, and I don't even know if it's a picture. It might be some sort of a painting. But that is Clementina Bovardi before she married Amilcare Fecci. And then I think you have my grandfather. Yep, that's my grandfather.
Oh, how dapper was he?
So that's my mother's side of the family.
Yeah.
Prior to this, you saw the Malaguti side of the family. This is the Fetchy side of the family.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
So
Look at that.
now we can go further into, I guess the next picture, Ken, is probably equipment. Okay,
Yeah.
this is the first bulldozer that they bought. And it's a oh God, I'm going to say early 30s, Alice Chalmers K.
Oh, Alice Chalmers.
Yeah.
I worked there.
And that picture is taken at the Symington estate, which is now the Pine Hills. And
Oh.
it's around the area where the Rye Tavern is. And the man standing on the bulldozer is Charles Sanderson Jr., whose son, Charles Sanderson III, actually just passed away a few months back. He was an engineer and he used to own Delano and Keith. And the man with his hand on the blade is Frank Thomas, and he was Clark Symington's supervisor of grounds and maintenance in Cranberry Bogs and whatever.
Is that Old Sandwich Road?
That's Old Sandwich Road.
Wow, what a difference. Yeah, I can tell. And what was the bulldozer doing there?
Well, I don't know, because Clark Symington had Malaguti work for them quite a few times. They did fire roads, they widened roads.
Okay.
This looks like it's a road widening project.
It does.
And I don't know, Frank Thomas is there, so maybe he's the one that's calling the shots.
Is that another machinery behind him? On the
No,
road?
that's Charlie Sanderson's 1932 or 34 Buick.
Oh, God. I think my father had one of those.
Okay, Ken, what do we got next? Okay, in 1936, actually the first truck that Malaguti's bought was a Vim, which I have no idea what that is, but it was a Vim. And then they bought a solid rubber-tired Brockway, and they bought Sterlings. They started buying Sterlings in 1936. This is a copy of the original bill ticket, and I think it's 6154. It's a 1936 Sterling. They had 336s, 238s, and a 41. That's a copy of the original bill ticket. I got that through one of my friends in the truck club.
What does it say? What did
It
they
gives you this.
pay?
It gives. Oh, I don't know. That I don't know on these models. But it gives you the specifications for the transmission, the color,
Oh.
the color of the paint. It says Sterling red on it. You know, the gearing, the alternator.
Okay.
Well, at that time, generator. It gives the specifications for the truck.
And they fixed all their own materials.
Oh,
They
God, yeah.
fixed the trucks. They made them last. They took nothing and made it into something.
Right. Right. Right.
What did they do in Italy, David?
In Italy, my great-grandparents were farmers. I don't know on my mother's side. I don't know what the great-grandparents did on that side.
They were used to equipment because they would have to have equipment on the farm.
Yeah, but everything was horse-drawn.
Ah,
Everything was horse-drawn. It was all,
Yeah.
you know, the old stuff.
yeah.
What do we got next, Ken?
Did he leave the room?
No, he's in there. Okay, that is a bill ticket for the second set of Sterlings. In 1947, all 6 of the originals, like I said, there was 336s, 238s, and a 41. They were all traded for 7 brand new 1947 chain drive Sterlings.
Wow.
And 6 of them were dump trucks. 1 of them was a low bed tractor, which you'll see later in the pictures. And again, that's courtesy of one of my friends in the truck club. And that's an original bill ticket showing the gears and the sprockets and the generators and the whatever lights you wanted and whether or not it had a heater, so forth and so on.
Wow. So their company is growing now.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing because in 1928, when I mentioned that invoice that said 16 bags of cement at 85 cents a bag, 20 years later, when I was born, in June 25th, 1948, they had 6 dump trucks, a low bed tractor, they had 5 cranes, 4 bulldozers, and 100 men.
Wow.
And I, for the life of me, I don't know how they did that in 20 years. I guess it's just sheer determination and sheer hard work.
And savvy.
Yeah, yeah, and When you mentioned savvy, I have some characters in my family.
Don't we all?
My Uncle Everett, in the 30s, by the time the 30s came around, the business was divided so that each of the three brothers had a different aspect that they took care of.
Good.
My Uncle Ralph took care of the masons, the carpenters, the bricklayers, the painters, and he was in charge of the house construction. And my Uncle Everett was in charge of the equipment, the shovels, the bulldozers, the trucks, you know. And my father was in charge of the yard, sold all of the stuff that was in the yard. He was in charge of the gravel pit. He was in charge of supplying whatever materials were needed on the jobs. But there was some overlap. So when I say overlap, my Uncle Everett used to bid re-roofing jobs. Now, not unusual. I mean, his specialty was equipment, but you can understand the overlap. But the interesting thing is he was petrified of height.
Oh,
He would not climb a ladder. So I said to him, not to appear stupid, but how do you bid a roofing job if you don't climb up and measure it? He said, well, that's simple. He said, you wait till the sun is just right, and it casts a shadow, and you pace off the shadow. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. He said, it took me 3 or 4 roofs to get it down pat. He said, but once I figured it out, I was all set.
God bless him. Now that's savvy.
I guess.
No, he found a way.
Yep.
You know, this is what they did.
Yeah.
My goodness.
What's next for pictures, Ken?
He's looking.
That's the bill ticket. And the next one. Okay, now that says Balboni Brothers on it. That's a 1929 Model 2 Northwest. It says 1931 in the lower corner because Malaguti bought it 2 years old, Navy surplus.
Oh.
Ran it until 1963, in which they sold it to the Balboni Brothers. The Balboni Brothers used it until 1969, in which case it was finally replaced. But that's Old Bertha, affectionately known as Old Bertha. That was on a job with a crane boom in a clamshell bucket down in the harbor in someplace in Rhode Island. I don't know if it was Providence or whatever. And it was on a barge. Well, one night the barge operator tied the barge too tight to the dock. When the tide went down, the barge tipped. Old Bertha slid into the harbor in Rhode Island.
Oh.
So Malaguti sent down 2 cranes, got it back out of the harbor. Longtime mechanic Peter Benair flushed it out with diesel fuel, put fresh gas in and fresh oil, and cranked it over, and it ran continued to run for probably 40 years after that incident.
Wow. Wow. You know, I mean, they were built to last.
Yep. And sitting in the seat is longtime Malaguti employee Frank Rossetti, and he worked for Malaguti as a young kid, and when Malaguti sold that crane to Balboni's, he went with it.
No, sir.
Honest to God.
He loved her so.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And are these families still around here?
Yes, yes. The Rossetti family lives. Some of them live up on off of South Street, and actually Frank's grandson Chucky lives over here around the corner on Nix Rock Road.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
So the family, I mean, Plymouth people didn't go far,
Right.
you
Right,
know.
right.
They loved their town and,
Yep.
you know.
Now, about this time period, we're talking in the early 30s. My dad had a Fordson tractor. The Malagutis had a Fordson tractor. And one of the jobs that he used to do, he used to plow Carver Road. And he used to plow it with the Fordson tractor. I don't know if you can pick up.
I don't think so, but this is a Bare Roots tractor
Yep.
right
there.
here.
Steel wheels.
I don't-
That's a Henry
you
Ford
can't see it.
Fordson tractor. Yep.
Oh, he's coming out.
Yep. Steel wheels. And one of the things he used to do, he used to plow Carver Road. Can you see, Kenny? I'll try to point it out.
I got it here.
Okay.
And it has no cab,
No cab.
and they would plow.
Yeah, he would plow Carver Road. And I said to him, you plowed Carver Road with no cab. And he said, well, I just put on a whole bunch of layers, and he said, I plowed. And I said, well, you know, my Mack dump truck, when the heater doesn't work, my plow gets parked. Yep.
Okay.
And when Kenny gets a picture of that, that's a Fordson tractor. Ironically, in this book, that's a Ford book. That's Henry Ford sitting in the 500,000th Fordson tractor. But that's a Fordson tractor of
It
that
looks
era.
like it was built by an erector set.
Okay, now if you would,
That's funny.
if you would, Ken, we'll see if we can pick this up.
Okay.
This, I know it looks shiny because it was rusting, and I buffed it a little bit with steel wool and kind of took the rust off. It was basically surface rust,
Yeah.
but I didn't want it to rust any further, so I painted it up. But that was hanging in the old homestead at Liberty Street, and when we moved to my present house, that came with us. So I said to my father, where did you get the railroad lamp? And he said, well, that's not a railroad lamp. And I said, well, it looks like the one that the conductor used to wave out of the back of the train to tell the engineer to take off. And he said, that's the lamp that I used to hang in front of the Fordson tractor so I could see what I was doing when I was plowing Carver Road.
My Lord. David, no cab.
Nope.
He would hang that out so
Yep.
he would see where he was going.
Yep. One
Well-
tough bird, huh?
God love him. You know, I sort of want those days back. You know, you have a yearning. Not really, but you do. It was a different time.
It was. It was. It certainly was. It was.
And they were men. They were man's men. Men's
That's-
man.
yep.
What, you know, men's men.
Yep, that's why my fascination with the old equipment. Everybody says, you live in the past. Well, it's the old equipment that, you know, when you wanted to pick up a heavy stone, you pulled harder on the levers. Really, I mean, that's, you know, that's what built the interstate road system when Eisenhower came back from World War II and
Right.
realized the importance of the Autobahn. That's what built the American roads, these older machines, you know. So that's my fascination with the old equipment.
And did you work for your father?
No, I was too young. I was too young. He retired at 62 and I was only 12. I did fiddle with the equipment behind his back when I was 13, but he didn't set too well with that. I was actually running the bucket loader, and he was furious. He said, you're too young, you can't do that. And I said, well, you know, I kind of really like doing it and stuff like that. And the batcher of the concrete plant, Alfred Cavaco, who, Betty Cavaco is married to Alfred's grandson. Alfred was my father's concrete plant batcher, and he said, Fred, you better leave David alone. He said, because single-handedly he keeps my bins full all the time.
All day.
And he said,
Yeah.
I never have to worry about running out of aggregate. They're always full, and they're always chock-a-block full at night. So my father kind of backed off a little bit, but he was not happy when he found out at
He was
13 years
worried.
old. Yeah, I was running a bucket loader and driving a truck at 13. He was not happy.
Right. Well, you know, you were born to it. You loved it. And this, was it rusting and you had to do that?
Well, I didn't want it to rust any further. It was covered with surface rust, so I just kind of prettied it up a little bit. But my wife said, you should never do that. You should keep an antique the way it is.
She's right.
I know she's right, but I didn't want it to rust further.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got all the surface rust off
And
of it.
oil wouldn't have,
It might have.
I'm sorry.
It might have.
I'm beating you up. But it's a handsome piece.
Yeah.
And that's in your house.
Yeah, it's downstairs hanging in my cellar.
Yeah. God love your father. I'm telling you, I wish I knew your father.
Oh, he was a character, let me tell you. He was a good guy.
And when did he pass?
He passed in 1987. He was 89 years old. Well, he was still 88 because he hadn't made his 89th birthday. And it was just a bunch of strokes that finally got him.
Yeah.
A bunch of cerebral vascular accidents.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Well, he was a bull.
Oh my God, he was strong as an ox. Like I say, at 65 years old, he could walk on his hands. He could flip himself up, walk on his hands, and walk 30, 40 feet and come back, you know.
God love him. I mean, young men can't do it.
Oh,
But
God, no.
what was Sunday dinner like?
It was a family tradition.
Yeah.
You know, you got together with other members of the family, whether it was aunts and uncles, sometimes cousins. It was a common thing. Every Sunday, this is what you did.
Right.
If it wasn't the noon meal, it was the night meal.
Yeah.
But you got together with your family, and there was always people either came to our house or we went to
Yeah.
one of the aunts'
That's
houses.
what we did.
You know.
Did you call Sunday dinner, and during the week it was supper?
Nope, it was always breakfast, dinner, and supper in my house.
Oh.
Always.
So dinner was at 12.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. Supper was the night meal
Yeah, supper was the night meal during the
during
week.
the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
So you had breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, not us.
You had breakfast, dinner,
And supper.
That's funny. But we all did get together on a Sunday.
We did.
And
Yep.
holidays, you started early,
Oh yeah.
11 a.m.
Yep.
You started with the nuts and the whatever and the fruit, and then the soup came out.
Yep.
And because Kenny's stepfather was Italian, he's the one who taught me how to cook.
Ah.
But you never left the table. If you got to the table, you went to 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah, we ate a lot back then.
We ate a lot. We would bowl over today if we did that.
Yeah.
So what do we have next?
What's the next picture, Ken?
Here we go.
Yes.
Okay, this is a road job, and it's 1941, and you will see in the second picture the orientation, but what it is, it's a second road into what at that time was Camp Edwards. Now it's Otis Air Force Base.
Oh.
This is prior to the United States entering the war. There was only one entrance into Camp Edwards, and that was off of Route 28 through Falmouth.
Right.
And apparently the military must have decided that they needed a second entrance, and a second access into the base. So what you see here is my uncle got the contract for the shovels, the bulldozer, but no trucks. Because it was a government job, you had to use a whole bunch of different contractors. But the shovel in the background is a Malaguti shovel. The shovel in the front is a Malaguti one. The bulldozer up on the slope is probably it's probably the same bulldozer that was in the earlier picture, and probably is Charlie Sanderson on it. And the man in black standing in front of that Ford 10-wheeler is my Uncle Everett.
Everett.
Yep, that's my Uncle Everett. Now, if you would, Ken, the next picture.
The next picture.
That puts everything into perspective, because
Oh.
there's the Sagamore Bridge.
Oh. That's right.
Yep, there's the Sagamore Bridge.
What
and there's
year is this?
1941.
Wow. I think it was 38 that they built the bridge.
Yes, 36.
30? 36.
Yep. Yep.
Look at that.
And if you look, you have to look closely, but those two stakes that you see standing up,
Oh, yeah, in the
all
front.
right, those are typical stakes that you put on a road job. You pound them in, they show you either the top of the slope or the bottom of the slope, and they usually have a mark on them that determines the grade. But if you look real close, they're tree limbs.
Oh,
So you didn't waste anything.
yeah. Oh, isn't that funny? God love them.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, Malaguti got this job. It was a fairly good-sized earth-moving job, and it kept the equipment going for quite a while.
Yeah, because the worst thing that can happen is for equipment to sit.
Yes, yes. And ironically, those two shovels went to the coal mines in Pennsylvania.
Oh.
When the dipstick work stopped up in this area, those two shovels, my uncle got them working at a mine down in Pennsylvania, and they were stripping off overburden. But after a period of time, when the Malaguti operators went down there, the mine people said, look, we'll put our own operators on them. And that was a mistake, because then they were never maintained, and nothing was greased, and they were just thoroughly worn out.
Oh,
thoroughly worn out.
they didn't
So,
know how to do it.
well, they didn't want to take the time to do it. It wasn't their machine, so they just didn't take care of them.
Did you have phones?
Certainly not cell phones.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I don't know what means of communication they had. They had telephones, yes, but anything on the roads was direct contact because you had to drive to the job and tell the
Yeah.
guy what to do and whatever, you know.
You had to walk over.
Yep, yep.
It was hard work.
It was a whole different way of doing business. I mean, you know, you see grade stakes pounded into that picture. You don't see grade stakes anymore. Now it's all GPS.
Oh, that's true.
Guy walks around with a little target and, you know, tells you where you are and what you're supposed to do, and it's a whole different ballgame.
But that's why they get the big bucks, right? Yeah. Well, said sarcastically.
Well, that's it.
Okay, so what do we keep on going because we have a lot.
Okay, yeah, that picture was good, Ken. You've all seen this.
Oh, yeah.
It's the town office building, which has since been vacated. But that was a school that I think it went dormant in 35 or 36. Albert Thompson, believe it or not, was the last graduating class out of that school. And then it just laid empty. So the town decided to rehab it and make it into the town office building that you know, we've all come to love and respect. And as you can see, the contractor was Malaguti Brothers.
Yep, I always knew that your family had a great deal to do with that building,
Yeah.
the old town hall.
Yep.
And
Up until a few years ago, I actually had a copy of the plans, but I had the copy of the rebuilding plans, and the architect was
Gaffney?
Gaffney, yep. Walter
Yeah.
Gaffney, yep, or Gaffney, whatever it is. But they
Gaffney.
got so they deteriorated so much that I just finally had to just put them in the
Oh.
recycle bin, you know.
that's too bad.
Yep.
And Russell
Anderson was a resident engineer. Yep. The building committee was Frazier, Everett Landman, I think,
Yeah.
Anthony Pioppi.
Oh, Pioppi.
Yeah, Elma Chandler, I
see
think.
it.
Yeah, and
Peter.
I don't know what that one is.
I don't know either, but
you know,
Pioppi's.
we're working so hard.
I know, and
we
it's
got
right
a
in
copy
front
of it
of
right
us.
in front of us. Of course, now I won't be able to find it that quick, but
That's all right.
okay. Peter Billy, Elmer Harlow, James Frazier, he was a selectman, Herbert Lamon, and Anthony Pioppi were on the building committee.
Wow. See, the Pioppi's too, they've been a
Yeah.
integral part of,
Yeah, because
Plymouth.
they still have Pioppi's package store.
absolutely, I go in there.
My good friend Peter Balboni and his father Dennis.
Yep.
Yep.
They're good, and the way they wait on you, they really give it care.
Yeah. Yep.
So I was looking for skinny vodka.
Skinny vodka.
Yeah, no calories,
Really?
and they have it.
My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, so Pioppi's.
Yeah. What's next, Ken?
I want a drink.
he wants a scotch.
You want a drink? I'll call Peter. I got him on my cell phone. Okay, that is an invoice. That is the Freitas house, and it is on the corner of Gould Road and Olmsted
Terrace?
Olmsted Terrace. It's Mr. Frank Freitas. If you drive by, it's a brick veneer house, and the total price of that house, brick veneer, all the Spanish-style roof at the time, plumbing, heating, the whole bit, $22,000.
You know, and that was a lot of money then. But, you know, and I know the houses down, they're beautiful. I love Homes and what's the other one there that goes toward the water?
Oh, there's Homes, there's Homes Terrace, there's the one that goes down to the condos
Yeah.
there, Robbins Road.
Holmes Terrace,
Yeah.
I think, has the most beautiful homes on it.
Yeah, those are cottage homes. Those were the cottage bosses that lived there.
Oh, I love that street.
Yeah.
If I could live there, I would. But 22,000.
Yep.
Painting, papering, electrical work, roof tile. Plumbing, heating, 22,000.
Can you imagine?
No,
Can't even buy a used car now.
no, no. It's really upsetting. Okay, let's go. What's next?
Next, I think, is the pit.
Oh, the pit.
I think.
No.
Oh, okay, here we go. Well, this has a whole story. This is taken, if you sat in Isaac's and took the picture towards the water. That is the breakwater. Now, this is not to be confused with the Depression era breakwater
Wow.
that the town was going to rebuild under the Promenade project.
Oh.
This is the bump out, which is across the street from Isaac's, and it was done to create more parking and a little bit of a pedestrian walkway. It's right where the Fisherman's Memorial is.
Oh, sure.
And that's one of the chain drive Sterlings from 1947. That is Johnny Martin, who has kind of got his arms on the fender. And his son Jack works at Perry's Market.
Oh,
He's, I think,
Yeah, I
about
must
64
see
years
him.
old. He's a tall,
Yeah.
tall one. I think he's about 64 years old.
yeah.
This would be his father. And on the right is good old Charlie Sanderson again. He stayed with Malaguti for a good many years. He's running the bulldozer. Now, the interesting thing about this is the stones, when you do a seawall, when you do any kind of a retaining wall by the ocean, you dig in your lower stones. They're called your toe stones.
Oh,
You dig
yeah,
them in. You go
toe.
down 6 or 7 feet. So the first 1 or 2 stones of the wall, you don't even see.
Right.
But if the tide erodes the sand, there are still some stones there to protect. Well, in excavating for the toe stones, Malaguti came across the original arch of the 1859 Hammett Billings canopy over Plymouth Rock.
Wow.
Dug all the pieces out, brought them back to the pit at Liberty Street, and if you can put this out, I don't know if we can get a picture of that.
Against the lamp.
Lean it against the lamp, yep. Okay, that shows the arch as it's been dug out of the harbor, and it's waiting to be loaded on a truck. And yeah, you can just make it out in the lower part of the picture. That's the clamshell bucket in the air. And on the left is the back of one of my father's Sterlings. And there's the arch stones sitting on the ground waiting to be loaded into Sterling. And they were brought back to the pit at Liberty Street, and that's where they sat for many years.
Why did they dump it into the ocean?
Probably just out of convenience. Probably just out of convenience. So now we go to, I'm going to say, the late 50s, maybe very early 60s. My Uncle Ralph took a piece of stone, brought it to New Hampshire, had it cut into small pieces and polished. And he had jewelry made. That's a tie clip. He had paperweights made. And that's a chip from the original, and actually, Karen, after just turn that around, you'll see the Hammett Billings canopy on the back. He had paperweights made, he had bolo ties, cufflinks, tie pins, and whatever
From the
else.
original.
All from the original canopy, and that's what the paper says. This is part of the Hammett Billings canopy. Started in 1859, I think, completed in 1867 because of the Civil War. Torn down because of the tercentenary celebration. The Daughters of the American Revolution wanted to put up a new canopy, and that's the McKinnon, I think it's McKinnon Mead White canopy that we see now today. But the original pieces of the canopy were thrown in the harbor. Malaguti dug them out. Malaguti saved them.
It's like Nick's rock.
Yeah. That's in somebody's foundation right now. Yeah.
I can't believe that happened.
Yeah. And ironically, one of those arches is in Peter Gomes's house down at the foot of Winter Street.
Oh, by Kenny.
Yep.
Tavares.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's one more piece of arch left, but it's saved by the Balboni family. They want to keep it within the family.
Yeah.
And there was a small piece of base stone that I just donated to the town hall. So if you go in the main entrance to the town
I
hall,
saw that.
That little piece of base stone,
That square
that
block.
sort of an arch,
Yeah.
that arch came from the Hammett Buildings canopy.
I was wondering what that was.
Well, it's going to be inscribed. It hasn't been
Good.
yet, but it's going to say something like, donated by Selectman David Malaguti in memory of the
Good.
Malaguti brothers.
Oh, excellent.
Yep. So that's
Excellent.
where that arch ended up. That's where those stones ended up.
I'm glad you saved it.
Yeah, I was given that by the Balbonis. I said, hey, I'd like a piece of the arch, and they said, okay, you know. So I picked out that small piece, which is adequate, you know. Then I thought, what am I going to do with it? I'm certainly not going to bring it to my house.
Yeah.
So I talked it over with Melissa, and then and Bill Cohan, and we made the decision to put it down there.
Yes, dear.
You got less than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
7 more pictures.
Okay. Go ahead. Just put them up one after another.
Yeah, well, and I'll try to do real quick.
He knows what he's doing.
Oh, he's tops. Okay, this is the yard area. This is the old homestead, and this is the retail yard. There were barns full of cement. There were barns full of plaster, cedar shingles, roofing shingles, windows, doors, whatever. Now, if you look at the right-hand side of the picture, there's a 6-door barn. There's 6 white
Yep.
doors there. I got to tell this story because it's typical of my family. My uncle had 6 Sterling dump trucks, my
Yep.
Uncle Everett. Those were his pride and joy. Those were his babies. So he put up a garage, convinced my father and my Uncle Ralph to put up a garage to put the 6 Sterlings under cover. Well, I think my father and my Uncle Ralph conspired and thought, you know what, they're Sterlings, they're made out of iron, they're not going to catch cold. So when my Uncle Ralph poured the floor, he poured the floor 3 inches too high.
Another savvy.
So the trucks wouldn't fit.
Oh, you know, and how did they explain it to Everett?
Well, he was livid for a while, but it kind of blew over because pretty soon one was full of roof shingles, one door had asbestos shingles,
Sure.
one door had sheetrock.
They
you know.
outvoted him.
Well, you never knew it until it was too late.
That's funny.
Okay, Ken.
Go ahead.
And this is the gravel pit. That is Route 3 when it was 2 lanes, one going and one coming.
One coming.
That I think is somewhere around 1953. I'm not positive. That gravel pit now is the condos at 52 Liberty Street. My cousins Albert and Alan reworked the pit and made it into condos, but at that time it was the gravel pit.
What is that road going across Route 3?
Cherry Street.
So it went right across.
Cherry Street crossed Route 3, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And where we are sitting, I think, is off that picture. I think it would be just to the far left.
Yeah.
It shows up better in this other picture.
Yeah. Okay, Kenny. We're ready.
Drum roll.
Oh, God.
I love this picture. I wonder who that is. He's adorable.
Let me tell you what, I hated that hat.
No, you're adorable. My brother had that same outfit.
Oh, let me tell you, I hated that hat. I think I'm 6 or 7, maybe.
And you're standing there saying, "Can I take the hat off?"
Can I throw this hat away, Ma?
Yeah. Oh dear, you're adorable.
Oh, yeah.
Where are you standing, David?
She probably took it from the front door of that house, the same place where all the family was standing,
Oh yeah.
in front of the old homestead. And behind me is the diesel fuel pump that you can see standing there.
Yeah.
To the right, there's a dump truck. There's a bulldozer out back there. And just over my left shoulder, there's a car. That's the same 1936 or 38, whatever it was, Buick that Charlie Sanderson used to drive.
Oh, that was on Old Sandwich Road?
That was on Old Sandwich Road. That's the
Yeah.
same car. Yep.
Look at you.
Yeah, look at me.
It was cold or something. Maybe it was.
Oh yeah, we got the mittens, we got the scarf, we got the heavy jacket, we got that stupid hat. I tell you, I used to walk up Liberty Street coming from school, and I used to throw the hat in the woods. So my mother would say, "Where's your hat?" I lost it.
Yeah.
So after about 4 or 5 hats, she got really mad. She says, "You were losing these hats." I said, "Ma," I said, "here's the story. I want a baseball cap like every other kid has. I wear this stupid hat. The kids make fun of it.
Yeah.
I get in a fight, and now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
You've had to come to school because I've been in fights. Yep. It's because of that stupid hat, Ma. Get me a baseball cap.
Yeah.
Well, after I threw away 5 or 6 hats,
She
got
did.
me the baseball cap.
And she didn't want you picked on either.
Well, she probably got tired of coming to school because I was getting into fights.
Yeah, well,
I'll go past that one, would you?
let's have the next one. Oh, look at
Okay,
that.
this is 1956, I think. And that is relocating Volta Oil. Volta Oil used to be down on Hedge Road.
Yep.
And they moved in 56 or 57, whatever the year was. Might have been 54, I don't know. They moved to Samoset Street, where you see them to this day. Now it's a Shell station.
Yep.
To the right is Harold Volta Sr. That's the Sterling low bed, the tractor pulling the Rogers trailer with the tank on the back. In the gooseneck is Harold Jr., who is, I think, 74 years old, and he runs South Meadow Citgo. He owns and operates South Meadow Citgo up opposite the airport on South Meadow Road. And driving the truck is Peter Benair, the longtime mechanic that worked for my dad for, oh my God, 45 years.
Wow.
But think of this now. That tank has been dug out of the ground. It's being brought to a new location. Think of today's laws.
Oh, I know.
You surely wouldn't be repurposing a tank like that.
You would be arrested. Next one, Kenny. We got to get through these.
Oh, God.
Oh, he did
You're
that
doing
on
that on purpose, I can tell. Okay, this was the first ready mix truck that was bought new. Prior to this, they had taken a couple of the chain drive Sterlings and put secondhand mixers on. This was a 1959 International 8.5 yard mixer, which replaced the 3.5 yard mixers that were on the Sterling. So one truck replaced 2 Sterlings, and that was driven by Johnny Martin, the same Johnny Martin that was in the other picture. And the picture is in front of his house on Gould Road.
Okay.
He used to take it home on Sunday morning and wash it.
You know, did you have those trucks around in the 70s?
Yes.
I remember those
Yes,
trucks.
yes. There were 6 Internationals and there were 4 auto cars, which you will probably see in a minute.
All right, Kenny, next one. I remember that.
Yep.
Only 2 left.
I know.
Okay.
All right. In 68, I was in the service when my cousin Albert sent me this picture.
Oh,
That's a 68 auto car, and now that's got a 12-yard mixer.
that's a honey.
Yep. Yeah, there were 2 of them, and then they bought 2 1972s. Now you've got a situation where you've got 12 yards, so 2 of those mixes there take the place of 3 Internationals
Wow.
at 8 yards.
Yeah.
So everything was a progression.
Yep.
Everything was a progression. Of course, by now my father had long been retired. He retired in 1960, but the company continued to grow and continued to diversify, get into different things. At this period of time, they had pretty much sold all of the equipment. They had got out of the lumber business because there was Mid-Cape, there was Grossman's,
Yeah,
there were
they
people.
were coming in.
Yeah, there were people in competition, so
Yeah.
they got out of the lumber business. But they got into concrete forms. And the concrete forms, they must have put up thousands and thousands and thousands of house foundations. They did the Stop and Shop. At the time, it was at Tedeschi's on the Kingston-Plymouth line
Yeah.
in North Plymouth,
Yeah.
where Gatra is now, I guess it is.
Yeah.
They did warehouses for the Tedeschi family. They did a store in Wareham, all done by Malaguti brothers.
They had a great business. Your next one, honey? Let's see.
This is just advertising memorabilia. The top two items are slide rules, concrete calculating slide rules, and the only significance there is the top one was one of the first ones, and you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff listed on it. It says shovels, backhoes, trucking, lumber, mason supplies, blah 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 blah, and then you drop down to the newer one with the bigger Malaguti brothers print, and all it says is concrete and concrete forms.
Yeah.
So the company had really morphed. And then, of course, there's the keychain and the matches.
Do you have any of those matches left?
I have that one book that you see right
You know, that's so sweet.
there. Yeah. Well, some people would say keep a lot of junk.
No, it's family.
Yeah, it is.
It's family. I mean, and your father sold the business.
He retired in 1960. He was 62 years old, and I think we have a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
He had started working. He had started working in 1912 when he was 14 years old. And I got to tell you this story quick. He worked for Revere Copper and Brass,
Oh, sure.
but it was Eads Manufacturing at the time, and they used to make zinc products. So he went to work at 14 years old. He left in the 8th grade to help support the family. He completed the 8th grade, but he went to work, and he was making 6 cents an hour, and he was working 9 hours a day, 6 days a week. So 54 hours a week, 6 cents an hour, no overtime. That's $3.24. And he used to give
Unbelievable.
my grandmother $3, and she would let him keep the 24 cents.
Oh, my.
So at about age 16 or age 17, he saved up enough money. He bought a train ticket. Now, mind you, he had never been out of Plymouth. The only means of transportation that he personally had experienced was a horse and wagon, because there weren't a lot of cars in Plymouth back in 1916 or 1917. So he gets on the train, rides to Boston, which in itself must have been momentous, having never left Plymouth, and he pulls into South Station. He gets out, he buys a newspaper. He reads the newspaper. He gets a hamburger and French fries.
Nice. That's what I would have done.
Gets a hamburger and French fries, right? Gets his shoes shined.
God love him.
Gets back on the train, comes back to Plymouth. My grandmother said, well, how was it? He said, Boston's an amazing place. He said, the whole city's under a big roof. He had never left South Station.
You know, the man, the sweetest man. I'm so happy you have these memories of him and carry it on. I'm so happy you did this for the family. And I really think it's worth it to have that framed. You don't have to get a fancy, maybe a black, go to Buckman, and he'll put it together for you.
He did a beautiful job on that. That was all rolled up when I showed you.
Yes.
And he straightened it out. Dave Buckman does some great work.
He does.
He straightened it out and he glued it and he stuck it to that foam board, and now you can pretty much see whatever you want to see on it,
Absolutely, because we were looking at the little pictures and we had a magnifying glass. But, this is your family history.
Yeah, and there's a lot
you've
more.
always given back to this town. You were a selectman, you carried on your tradition, you have history.
And so far, a good memory.
And so far, a good memory. I'm telling you, this was fun, and I can't get over this. I'm telling you, how this was done.
Well, he was a tough, strong old guy, and
You're welcome back here anytime,
thank you.
and I really enjoy talking to you anyway. So please keep that in mind. Next week, we're going to be doing our Christmas show and have a lot of guests. So please tune in. See you in 7.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.